Let me pick up with the minister.
There's a new mafia which has come to be.
There are 100 projects which are stopped for the
Well,
last mile.
I think it's time we should stop calling development a mafia activity. I think people who are bringing in development into this country are serving this country.
I did not.
Well, let me give you an idea of what you've stimulated.
I did not
Aruna,
say
one moment,
development
please.
is mafia.
One moment, please.
This is
because
wrong.
you
It's a
are
wrong
stimulating.
interpretation.
You are stimulating responses elsewhere. Picking up what the minister has said, public sector has made a mess of power distribution, billions of dollars of losses. The private sector can redeem that sector.
Well, I don't think public sector has made a mess is the right way to put it. Public sector could have done it better. And with the advent of modern technology, with the opportunities that new technologies have brought to the table. For example, I'll give you a simple story on underground mining. It is very easy now to bring in technology, do underground mining of resources and serve the development needs without creating a problem. But the erstwhile government has brought in a law that you can't do underground mining till you buy the land. So actually where there's an opportunity to develop without spoiling the forest, a law has been brought in that you first buy the forest, you spoil the forest and then you do underground mining. I don't understand the logic behind half.
Well, here's a live tweet. Will the government now be willing to gradually move away from coal to cleaner energy? That from Neha Segal.
Incidentally, when we inherited government in May 2014, the plan was to do 20,000 megawatts of solar by 2022, but the achievement was 2,900 megawatts. We have scaled it up to 100,000 megawatts of solar, which is 5 times what was planned earlier. We are looking at bankable methods to finance it. We are looking at methods to ensure that land is not acquired, but is only leased, but gives people a recurring income over the life cycle of the project. We are looking at tripling the wind energy. The wind energy today is about 22,000 megawatt in the country. We are looking at adding 40,000 more in the next 5 years. We are bringing in nuclear. We're engaging with the world to see how we can bring in good, affordable nuclear technology, safe nuclear technology. And finally, when we inherited government, there were at least 20,000 megawatts of hydel power, which were at different stages of implementation, stuck because of agitations and absolutely irresponsible statements. There was 20,000 megawatts of gas projects, which were stranded. Our government is working to bring all of them back in stream so that India's energy security can once again be taken care of.
All right, well, let's broaden this. There are free, fair and prosperous. Those are the three words in our title. Let's now pick up on fair, the next stage of our debate. Here's one live tweet. You're dodging the question. People aren't worried about the fiscal deficit. What about food, work and pensions? That from Pravita. We're joined by Ritika Kera, who's a development economist from the Delhi School of Economics.
So as a development economist, my
Just
concern...
start again, can you?
Yeah. As a development economist, my concern is with fairness. And we are quite worried that budgetary allocations for such programs that are meant for the rural poor are quite small. So just to give a small example, it's 0.3% of the GDP for the Rural Works program, which reaches out to 25% of the rural population. It's only 1.1% for the Food Security Act, which reaches out to 66% of the population. As far as the other sector is concerned, just to contrast these numbers, it's about 3% of the GDP of tax revenue foregone, much of which goes to industry. So for instance, it's 60,000 crores for gold and diamond. It's that budget, the Rural Works program. And one of the first things that has happened in the past few months is to start talking about restricting the Rural Works program on fiscal grounds. But that is not a very adequate explanation. In the past 20 years, the tax base in China has gone up from less than 1% to 20% of the population. And in India, it has stagnated at 2 to 3%. So there is quite a lot of room for increasing revenues. So my concern really is, the mantra sounds really nice, minimum government, maximum governance. But international experience and national experience shows that that mantra has landed Gujarat at number 8 on the Human Development Index, and states which have had more active participation in health and education. I'm not talking about roads and mining. I'm talking about health and education and social protection programs. Those states are today sitting at number 1 and 2 on the Human Development Index.
Let's in that case.
Correct. There's a little mistake in what she has said.
Let me give you just some broader points being made by those in the room and elsewhere. Here's a Facebook posting from Neha Singh. What is the Modi government doing for dire poverty, which is present in all of India, where the middle class is hardly noticeable? Well, let's go to someone where that is a major challenge, someone from a village 60 kilometers from Jaipur in Rajasthan, Chavi Rajawat.
Thank you, Nick. I would agree.
Just one moment. Just get. Go ahead, please.
To a great extent, I would agree with what Arunaji said, but also I would go along with what you mentioned, Mr. Mithil. But I think we have to get out of the thought process and the mindset of playing a blame game. The government, up until now, had not been able to hear the voices of the majority, which continues to remain rural India. We have not been able to protect the rights of the people in rural India. Who is talking about education and giving it the right focus? Who is working on skill development? Yes, the government is speaking about it. But has it reached the grassroots? Not yet. Are we empowering the governance at the last mile, which is what I represent? No, we are not. I mean, a Sarpanch gets attacked who's doing transformational work, working on the agenda of the government. So I've seen this with the previous government. Sadly to say, I've seen it with the current government as well, that while we're doing the transformational work, the grassroots bureaucracy and the government officials who are supposed to assist you with the work of development cause hindrances, but who is there to listen? So if an elected representative such as myself is not protected by any of the governments, how are the people and their rights going to be protected is, I think, what we need to look at. And I think that is where we need to have a multi-sector approach. We need to have partnerships. If the government has not been able to bring about the development that a scale such as ours needs, I don't think scale should be used as an excuse, but I think we need to partner to bring about a holistic difference that India needs to see.
So in other words, what we're seeing there is voices about the concern that the poor and those in the rural communities, hundreds of millions of them, are simply not getting anything from this. Sunil Mittal.
Well, nobody can disagree with the positions that have been put out. One good thing is we have a restless India out there. There are lots of young people, lots of people in the rural area who are wanting their voices to be heard right at the top. I think this will ensure that the government or the business communities or the people who are providing the developmental agenda are having to watch what's being seen in the marketplace. They will have to deal with those very strong negative perceptions. But all I would urge is, you have to give this some time. Some of the questions that are being asked here today, within a matter of 5 months of the government coming into position, is unfair. Most of the stuff that you talk about lies in the state government's hands. I work in rural India. I've got 280 schools in villages. I work with panchayats. Most of the agenda, most of the issues are with local administration, with the state administration. I'm not saying trickle down here, but for God's sake, let's give it some time. 5 months we are trying to judge the 67 years of problems that we have in this country. I think that is being unfair.
Minister Goyal, let me just tell you one tweet here. Solid points being made by all of you on poor inclusion, but is this government only pro-business? From Manoy there.
I think this government is more pro-poor, and I've had more complaints from the business than from the poor as of now.
Are you complaining all the time, Sunil Mittal?
More often than not, he's complaining to me. But ma'am, I'll just correct your perspective on one thing which has been a left agenda for too many years. It'll be nice for people to understand this concept of revenue foregone is a completely erroneous concept. The gold and diamond, which is imported for re-export, is the only one which is given any concession. There is no concession for gold and diamond otherwise. This revenue foregone is a concept where when you buy health insurance, you get a tax set-off. When you pay for your children's education, when you pay for your house rent, you get a tax set-off. That is calculated also as a revenue foregone. It's a concept which has been badly misunderstood in the whole lexicon. Also, your numbers about health expenditure, education expenditure is not a part of the budget. The numbers you gave is a part of the public spending of the GDP. But in India, fortunately for India, we have a very robust private education network. We have a charitable institutions doing education and health. And when you look at the health and education expenditure as a whole, private and public, what we need to focus is less on increasing, but on quality of that expenditure, outcomes out of that expenditure, which is where when Madhya Pradesh launches a project for the girl child, when they give scholarships to the children to study, when they give a mechanism by which a girl, when she becomes of marriageable age, has a certain capital and a standing of her own, when we provide various schemes right at the doorstep of the poor, that is what is going to
all right.
make a transformative change.
There's a tweet here. Is the government only partnering with the private sector? Is it completely ignoring civil society? Is that healthy? Let's go to Vikram Akula, who has been involved over many years in microfinance down at the village level. Is civil society being taken care of? Are you managing to help people set up small businesses in villages?
Well, in particular, when it comes to inclusive growth, I think financial inclusion is a big role to play. And in this regard, it's true that the government's Jan Dhan Yojana program, which opens bank accounts, is a fantastic, big program. But the problem is even bigger than that. The problem of lack of access to credit, savings, and other financial products is so significant that it seems to me the government should also be encouraging the private sector, by which I mean private banks in partnership with microfinance institutions and NGOs, which do have a demonstrated track record of helping to bridge financial inclusion. Now, the previous government was not so supportive, one state in particular, of this private sector initiative. The question that I have for you, Mr. Minister, is, given the scale of the problem, is Jan Dhan Yojana enough? Shouldn't multiple channels of access to financial services be promoted? And if you do believe that the private sector is important in the provision of financial services, what specifically is this government doing to make that happen?
In other words, don't just go for big business. There's vast numbers of people out there who want small amounts of capital.
I think you'll have to look at the project in its entirety. The Jan Dhan Yojana helps people get into the whole mainstream. The financial architecture that India has created over the years has been largely skewed towards urban and the better off or the middle classes. This is the first time a project has been taken where every household in the country is sought to be connected with the banking architecture. They are being given a social security of 100,000 rupees in the case of an accident, a free accident insurance. They are further being given a 30,000 rupee free insurance policy in the event of an unfortunate death in the family. I think this is the first step to taking the subsidy program right to the doorstep of the people. Once we have an included India where they're all connected to the basic banking system, will we be able to reach out directly to the people, cutting across the intermediaries and helping the rural India, the poor India, participate in the growth of the country.
All right, how connected is rural India at the moment? You're in the business of telecoms. You're making more profits from it now.
Well, as far as telecom is concerned, it's very well connected. I think that's one great story where now you have a radio signal coming at more than 97% of India's geography. And we have more than 90% of the population fully covered. I mean, that's the delightful part. You go into the deepest part of India, you will find a DTH, small little dish put outside with 2 or 3 bricks, and somebody having a mobile phone. Now, to the point of what Vikram made, I think the next big thing is to use these mobile phones to get into a massive financial inclusion, because you can do it very cheaply, and you can do it in a very secure manner.
Can I just come in here? I want to start with what she said, which is quite true, because I share her world in many ways. And I know that young people who are now getting literate, first generation literacy, first generation graduates, are borrowing money to study. You promised 8 million jobs, and when they go to get jobs, they don't get them. And they are now going to be terribly ill, mentally and otherwise, because they have bank loans to pay off. They are not getting jobs which are adequate, pay them adequately. Neither government nor private sector is absorbing them. A generation of young people with very many chips on their shoulder.
All right, well,
and
Aruna,
angry.
let's pick up
That's
what...
exactly the problem we inherited, which you are trying to set right.
And one
But
thing
you
I
don't
want
want
to say,
development,
I want to
you
say
don't
one
want
thing.
industry, you don't want power to come into
no.
homes.
I'm sorry, this is a generalization I can contest. And I want to tell you one thing. I have a Dalit woman who's a sarpanch like you in Rajasthan. And every time any one of us says nothing has happened in the last 60 years, she pulls our sari and she says, you say it for yourself. The people of India have benefited. Let's not have this kind of rhetoric because
I
it
think
doesn't
this
work.
government wants to move beyond
let's
these
move.
caste divisions.
Let's move.
I think it's not about what the
sorry.
caste of a particular person was.
No,
it's about all of India.
No, that's
it's
all
about
right.
including India as
That's
a
all
whole.
right.
Well,
we believe it's time now
You
to
are
move
picking
out
up,
of
you're picking up an
sectoral
unnecessary
politics.
adjective to work on a
You
very
must not
serious
use
issue.
unnecessary
I'm
adjectives
sorry, but she
and
is a
divide
Dalit.
Indian society.
She
All right,
is
well,
a Dalit. Indian society is divided. And if you say it is not, you're living a life like an ostrich. You
Well,
can't
Mr.
exist.
Narendra Modi on the screen is sweeping the floor, and I don't think that we would like to divide Indian society the way you want it
I'm
to
sorry,
be.
Mahatma
We believe
Gandhi
all of
cleaned
us.
toilets. He was a much bigger name than any one of us who are living today.
One of the
And
critical
he didn't
areas
take.
which you've all raised is education and skills. You've just put it on the agenda, Aruna. Let's hear from Shyama Chona, who's a former head of Delhi Public School. You're now an educationalist. And as I introduce you, for example, here's one Facebook posting. It's infuriating to know there are millions of students who aren't getting what they deserve, yet education takes the back seat when it comes to spending as a percentage.
I think we're all here to find solutions and not sit here and fight with each other. I think that is one point of education that must go to the schools to tolerate each other's points of view and get into understanding.
What about capacity
So I'm
building?
just coming to it. I'm just coming to it. Our education system must depend on understanding how different views exist together and how together we can find solutions. That is my first matter. Like, just give me 2 minutes. 229 million kids are enrolled in schools. I represent them. I have worked for 50 years for them, but my heart cries out today because they don't have teachers. 600,000 teachers are missing from schools. Therefore, these kids who go to schools, whether it is rural India or it is urban India, let us not divide the two. We are India. So, sir, how are you going to solve this problem? That's my first question. Please give me a minute. My second question is that the expenditure incurred in the last so many years on education needs to be, who's accountable for it?
Right.
Two, three. Please.
I've
The
got to
third
stop you.
question is that who is accountable for bringing quality of education into schools? These are my things.
Accountability. Sunil Mittal, you run a foundation which is involved in education. We've got a tweet here. Young people, live tweet, young people want more than of their voice to be heard. They want a seat at the table to design their future that they will live in. What is the deficit of capacity, and can it be bridged realistically or not?
Well, the deficit of capacity is certainly there, but more importantly, the deficit of quality is massive, it's huge. I mean, you can probably have a lot of schools but have no quality education. And part of the problem that Arunaji is talking about is employability and, of course, enough steps not being taken to employ them. And I share her views, and all of us have to share the view. There are 320 million people in the age group of 6 to 16 today. In 10 years' time, they'll be between 16 and 26, and they'll be knocking very hard on the doors of society for jobs of being part of what's happening in India. And if we don't harness this energy through either education or skills, which finally result in employment, I think we could have a big problem on our hand. Equally, if we can harness them, we have a global workforce.
Is it achievable or not in this enormous country?
Well, I think there is a lot achievable. We will be able to take a large part of that into the mainstream if we can all collectively work together. And as rightly being pointed out by Mrs. Chona here, Madam Curie once said, I do not see what has happened. I only notice what is remaining to happen.
All right, well,
a lot
Minister,
needs to be done, and I think the government, the people who are involved in development, and people who are watching how the development is happening need to be realistic, pragmatic to take this country forward.
Minister, you face 1 million new kids entering employment every month, 13 million a year. They need skills, they need education, and the population is growing. How much do you feel almost overwhelmed by this challenge, given 600,000 teachers short?
Not at all overwhelmed. I think it's very much doable. First of all, we need to get out of this pessimism that has set into India. I think the last few years have created a situation where most of us first start with a pessimistic view that nothing can happen in India. I think what Mr. Modi has brought to the table is the first confidence that we can do it and together we can do it. Second thing is we are bringing into the school education system a more accountable system where teachers are logged for the attendance biometrically. We are using mobile technologies to see whether photographs can be clicked of the school and the teacher, WhatsApped up to the superior authorities. We are looking at mechanisms where we can move the children up the PISA rankings where we are abysmally low as we speak right now. I think the effort will have to be first more towards quality. The effort will have to be more towards getting the students, as he said, employable. So instead of just a routine education, the focus will have to be skill development at the initial stage. We'll have to get people employable. Youth shortage in every sector. And what Mr. Modi did in Gujarat, he mapped out how many skills are required from womb to the tomb. And he came across 5,000 skills that affect our lives as we go along. Now, those are the skills we need to focus on.
Let's move on now to our third word, the free India. Let me quote to you about the style of this government, that on a transparency scale, this government ranks slightly lower than lead. That from Mitali Saran in the Business Standard. Aruna Roy, is this a free India at the moment when it comes to free expression?
I think it's a free India for some, and it's a very restricted India for others. In the beginning, 6 months ago, when people started critiquing the politics of India, and despite all the stigmas that are being attached to me on the dais, we've criticized the previous Prime Minister, we've talked against the previous Finance Minister, we've talked against the previous government for corruption, we've had a big demonstration on corruption on the streets of Jantar Mantar. We have critiqued every single government. And today, if you critique the present government, there is a fear in civil society that you will be indicted, that there'll be cases against you. There were cases against any activist group that raised issues. In the beginning, there was this fear. U.R. Ananthamurthy, a famous writer in Kannada, who said something, was socially hit. He was pilloried and he's now died. But he's died because of other reasons. But the point is, he was given a one-way ticket to Pakistan just because he said he didn't want a particular kind of leadership. The kind of attacks on social media, a young boy belonging to a minority community was killed in Pune, a young man in Goa who just posted something on his Facebook was arrested. I think this government will have to try very hard to reassure the people of this country they can speak freely. We are, Amartya Sen's, argumentative Indians. And we must remember that the biggest tragedy that happened in 1975 to all of us when Mrs. Gandhi declared emergency was that we couldn't talk. Indians need to talk, we need to express ourselves. It's a democratic right, but it's also a cultural right. We speak, and if we are not allowed to speak, not allowed to critique, not allowed to criticize, and every time we open our mouth, we are called anti-development or anti-this or pro-that or pro-this or east of this or ism of that, India is not going to develop.
Minister
I
Goyal,
don't see any reason for anybody to be fearful unless he
Minister
or
Goyal,
she is
can
doing
I-
some wrong.
Can I just put something
But
into
she's
the...
contradicted herself.
Can I
I don't
just
know
put
whether she
something
wants
into-
free speech or no.
Can I
She
just put
speaks
something into the
about
mix?
social media attacks. But that's the free
But
speech.
the
I don't
government-
control
no,
social
but the
media.
government is
but
quiet.
if you,
No,
if
the
you arrest
government-
somebody,
no.
I don't know what is the
The
text what
government-
you're saying.
the
Do you want
government-
free media?
The
Do
government
you not
ha-
want free
the
media?
government has not stopped it. Government went the misuse of social media. The government's job
So
is
you just
Right.
said somebody
not to
put
prevent-
hateful,
No, you
hateful
have to.
posts
Let
on
me hear the
Facebook
minister,
No, but-
and was
please.
arrested.
Who was
so
arrested?
let's make up our mind. What do you want to do?
Government arrested.
You want us to
no
police
civil
or you
society.
don't want us to
no
police?
civil
Aruna,
society group
could I
arrested.
ask the minister to speak, please? Because even the Editors Guild was called in off the record to see a lot of editors earlier this week by Modi, after they had said the government in its early days seems to be on a path that runs counter to the norms of democratic discourse and accountability. That was a few days ago. In other words, there is a problem, and the Prime Minister recognizes this.
Well, by the way, the Prime Minister talks, but he also works. He's not a Prime Minister who only talks. So he talks when he has to convey a message, He talks in Parliament. He
But he
conveys.
doesn't take questions from journalists.
Well, he takes it when he has to. He's given more interviews than the previous Prime Minister did in 10 years. He's given more interviews in the last 6 months.
I think this is
Just for
relative.
information. So I think what he talks from his heart. You've seen him in the speech on Independence Day. You've seen him speak his heart out. You've seen him give solutions. He's not one who gets inundated by criticism. He's not one who's looking at a pessimistic world. He's an optimist. He's a person who believes in his ability to perform. He's a person who's confident in his own ability to deliver. And he's a person who has a track record. His track record demonstrates a Gujarat which has no unemployment, a Gujarat where industry is that
unemployment in
25%
Gujarat.
that you talked of.
No, that's not
Share of
true.
industry in Gujarat is
Not true.
10% more than the rest of India.
Not true.
He's a person who has demonstrated skill development in his state. He has demonstrated quality of education. He's a person who brought in innovative ideas. How did he make power 24/7 in Gujarat?
All right.
Simple separation of distribution
But
feeder
there is
for
a view,
rural India,
there is
for
a
the
very
poor.
there is a view that he's trying to dominate the media space and control it. Here, for example, why don't ministers do a monthly town hall with people to hear them address their grievances? In other words, having accessibility.
I think this government is more accessible than any time in the past. People must be sick of seeing me on television. I think they've had an overdose of the ministers. I think
Television-
you must appreciate that in an 18-hour work day, we have work to do and less to talk. That's our focus.
Mihir Sharma, can I ask you?
Television is one way. We want a conversation. We don't want to listen to you. only.
Aruna, please. Could I ask Mihir Sharma, you work for the opinion page of Business Standard. Do you recognize what the minister says about the public space?
I think that the government has a very different conception from what the public space is, from what a lot of other people would imagine. This is a one-way sort of communication that the government is talking about. The Prime Minister does tweet a lot. There are a lot of information is released through official channels, but the back and forth between, let's say, the media or civil society or regular consultations is sort of a little short. Definitely for those of us who are in the newspaper business, this government has completely closed off access, and therefore we don't really know what it's thinking, and we don't really know
I think the sad part of India and India's development story has been it's been driven only by what happens in the media. This government believes it has to work to perform and deliver to the people. It is not that whether I give an interview to a particular journalist or a particular newspaper will be the defining feature of whether I'm working or not. It's the results that will talk. I don't want to waste time beyond what is necessary. Which government in the past has had every minister come before the press for a press conference after the first 100 days, and then repeatedly will be doing that? Which government or minister has spent 3 hours? I personally spent 3 hours after my 100 days got over, responding to 68 questions from 14 locations all over India. And every question under the earth was answered. I came out with a report card of my 100 days. So did every other minister in this government. We give out information, we take your questions, we answer you, but I don't accept media standing there. I get to my office, in the corridors there's media. My list, 7 media requests. I think I have work to do. If we want a society or a government driven only by the media, I think this government will fall short of that. We will perform for the people, but we will welcome healthy criticism. We'll welcome healthy ideas, and that's the kind of engagement we are looking for.
Final point in this debate.
May I just...
Wait a minute. Final point in this debate, which is reflecting what a live tweet says here. It's generally optimistic in this country, but in terms of religious freedom, we should be gravely concerned. He has an awful track record, that from David. What's your view, Aruna Roy, whether Prime Minister Modi, representing the BJP, which represents Hindu nationalism or the Hindutva, is it going to unite religious tensions in this country?
Well, if you go by what is happening in Delhi, let's not go too far. In the last 15 days, there's been religious tension in Bhavana, there's been in Trilokpuri, and this kind of religious tension is absolutely before elections. We had it in UP, we now have it in Bihar. Now, question that people are asking, they may not ask you because you think it's I who's asking you. No, there is a general discussion in Delhi. Is it an electoral ploy to have these kinds of struggles, kinds of attacks, and thereby somehow get the Hindu votes?
Where do you think these attacks are coming from?
The attacks are instigated. This is what people are saying because these people have lived together for years. A small quarrel that takes place between two members of the community, one belonging to this and one belonging to that, slowly spirals up. And when I was an IAS officer, was taught that if there is anything like this, within minutes you must stop it. And the administration can stop it. But if there is a political input there, then the administration gets weak. I don't know what the situation is in Delhi, but certainly it's the administration, it's the government, and it is just under the shadow of the two of Lutyens Delhi that this is happening.
Well, Sunil Mittal, let me put to you: do you fear that your optimism, even though it's 5 months in, could be derailed by these kind of tensions, which could get out of control and create a more unstable India for you to operate in corporately?
Actually, quite the contrary. I feel much more comfortable on this particular point. There are two reasons. I mean, in 2008 or sometime thereabouts, I asked a question to then Chief Minister Narendra Modi about this particular issue, and he gave me one answer I still remember. My 55 million Gujaratis, he said that in Hindi. And for me, the development and welfare of each one of them is important. I got my answer in 2008. Today, the whole world keeps on focusing on this particular issue. And I think no one else, more than Mr. Modi himself, is aware what this means for him in the international arena, on the international stage. He will ensure that there's a development for all. It's absolutely important for him. Why would he ever compromise this, one of the most important things where India and the world is watching him? I personally feel he'll score very high points on this particular issue. He may not wear a skull cap, he may not take a particular shawl around his neck, but to my mind, that has been done for 67 years. Where are we today? So I feel actually much more comfortable on that part, that he will be even-handed in the development of the society.
Piyush Goyal, as a minister in Mr. Modi's new government, just respond to what Aruna Roy has said, that there are ethnic tensions being instigated for political purposes now.
Well, I've not come across a single instance where there's been an ethnic tension instigated. I think it's time the country looked at India as the first priority, India first. It's time we started taking all sections of society together. This sort of divisive agenda has to stop. It's an agenda that certain vested interests are trying to propagate and reignite again and again. I think what Mr. Modi reflects, and he's very categorical about it, is that we will have development for all, we will have justice for all.
What about instigation?
And no
That's the
appeasement
allegation.
of one section or
That's
the
the
other.
allegation. Instigation.
Well, allegations are always very easy to make. I trust the judicial system of India. I trust that there has been no genuine allegation which has been found out of all of these allegations. Modi wants to build roads for all of India, irrespective of caste, community, creed.
Right.
He wants power for all of India. He wants to give jobs to everybody. He does not want to segregate society, that this road is for this community, this road is for another community. I think what Mahatma Gandhi stood for, rather than giving lip service, is actually on the ground bringing that uniformity in society, justice for all, appeasement of none.
You've raised that question. Aruna, just one moment. You've now brought the whole argument full circle. That question, is India going to be free, fair and prosperous? In 15 seconds each, Aruna Roy, is India going to be free, fair and prosperous?
Only if we go back to Mahatma Gandhi's statement that the minority must feel free, they must feel confident, and they must feel secure in this country. The poor must feel that they have a say in what's going to happen in this country, and they must know what share of it they will get. The women in this country must know what they will get. And
So-
they must be part of the planning process. They have to be participatory
All right.
in it. They can't be just targets, and we can't listen to any one person saying, that's what is best for us. We need to decide for ourselves what is best, and that's what democracy is all about. That's why we give the vote. We don't give the vote to make kings who are crowned.
Aruna Roy.
We give it so that we get a chance.
Aruna
to be
Roy,
part of the
this is a
system.
debate which shows that anything can be expressed. Thank you very much indeed. Free, fair and prosperous and inclusive. Sunil Mittal, yes or no?
I remain very hopeful ever than before. My own view is we are on a path where we will see a lot of recovery from the problems that we have had, a lot of development, a lot of happiness in the society, and more importantly, a responsible society which will move together.
Free, fair and prosperous. If we come back and talk to you, say in a year's time, will you concede that maybe there are bigger problems looming?
This is that one time in the history of India that India is feeling free, India is feeling safe, India is feeling secure. This government stands committed to the security and safety and freedom, not of one or the other section of society, but 125 crore Indians, male, female, majority, minority, caste, creed, sectoral. I think this is that one time in the history of India where we are seeing all of India united, all of India aspiring for a better tomorrow, all of India fighting against poverty, all of India looking for a bright future for the next generation, safe future, secure future, and the prosperity levels that we are going to see in the years to come will be for all of India, not divided India. That's not what we want.
Minister, thank you very much indeed. There are, though, as we've heard in this BBC debate, enormous concerns. We look forward to auditing what progress you've made in the next few years. Can I thank all of you? Our time is up for this debate on the future of India under the new government of Narendra Modi. Thanks to our panel, to all of you who've contributed your thoughts and questions, and our global audience around the world on television, radio and online. That's all from the BBC World Debate in Delhi. From me, Nick Gowing. Bye-bye. Just stay where you are, please. Thanks. Just stay where you are, please, everybody, so we can get a wide shot over which we can roll the titles. I did tell you all to stay in your seats, so thank you for being obedient. It's free and fair here.
But you have
Yeah,
to
but
sit.
you were the monitor.
Can I
Exactly
just
like
thank you all very much indeed, particularly for your flexibility over the start time. Minister, thank you very much as you head for Maharashtra. Aruna Roy, thank you very much indeed, and Sunil Mittal, and thanks for all your contributions as well. I've only managed to get a small percentage in, but I think it reflects the direction of travel of concerns and also optimism as well. Thank you all very much indeed.